So it's official. A theory a decade in the making has paid off. Boruto is a time traveler. Is at least what TikTok would tell you. See, because in the most recent chapter of Two Blue Vortex, that is chapter 2, we were served to a scene that had fans from both Boruto and Naruto finally coming together in unison. And what they were unifying under was the fact that a theory that we've been working on for almost a decade might actually pay off. See, because in chapter 687 of the manga, and not the anime, and we'll cover that in a second, we see in a battle between Team 7, Obito, and Kaguya, a black speck on a hill ominously watching over this fight happening against some of the strongest people in the universe. However, this battle was happening inside of Kaguya's dimension, and the only people warped into Kaguya's dimension were Team 7, Obito, and Kaguya herself. And thus, the second that this manga chapter was released, everybody flew to the presses and wondered, who was that black speck? As far as we could tell, everybody in Team 7 was accounted for. Nobody was that far away, which meant that this black speck watching over the most important battle in the world's history wasn't from Team 7, wasn't Obito, wasn't Kaguya, wasn't Black Zetsu, which has led people since 2014, when this chapter came out, to speculate about the identity of this black speck. Some people believe it's Shisui, some people believe it was Jigen, some more level-headed people believe it was Sakura, but nobody has ever actually found the answer. What's worse than all of this is that this black speck doesn't exist in the anime. This is something that only happened in the manga, which has only fueled the fires of curiosity amongst manga readers. However, there is a scene in chapter 2 of Two Blue Vortex that finally has people coming together in agreement that that black speck is Boruto. Yes, that's right, ladies and gentlemen, chapter 2 of Two Blue Vortex might possibly have proved the identity of that black speck to be a time-traveling Uzumaki. Not Shisui, not Sakura, not Jigen, no! The main character of the sequel, watching over the most important fight in the original story. But how would Boruto end up in Kaguya's dimension? Why would he go there in the first place? And what evidence do we have to back up any of these claims? Well, we're gonna cover all that and a whole lot more today, guys. But first, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. And if you guys want to hear me scream crazy theories about your other favorite anime from the top of the mountaintop, go ahead and follow my other channel, The Weeb Commander, where instead of talking about Naruto and Boruto, I talk all other anime. And if you just want to hear me scream about anime in general, then you're gonna love my anime podcast, Otaku's Anonymous, where me and Danny Mata break down everything that happened in anime this week. It's available on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Or if you just want to look like you scream about anime on a day-to-day basis, go ahead and head to my brand new merch store, otakusanonymous.net, where you can pick up some of the greatest anime merch known to man. But before we get into all that, guys, today I want to talk about a brand new sponsor to the page, Warby Parker. See, as you guys know, I wear glasses. They're not prescription, they're blue light. Yes, I can see, but I don't love these glasses. They're a sake of convenience. They were $8. And so I'm always looking for better quality, better looking glasses. And genuinely, I feel as though every single time I find a pair of glasses I really like, they're several $100s, and I feel like the quality's not up to par. Well, fortunately, Warby Parker has walked into my life. See, when it comes down to all things eyeballs, Warby Parker's got you covered. Whether you need blue lights, contact lenses, sunglasses, Warby Parker is there for you. And genuinely, it's never been easier to get a pair of Warby Parkers that you love. Because Warby Parker has a free home try-on program that allows you to select 5 pairs of glasses to try on at home and see if you like the way they look. And today, I want to walk you through a couple of my selections. See, Warby Parker knows that every single one of us has a beautiful and unique face. And before you jump in with a brand new set of glasses, you should see what they look like on that beautiful and unique face. You can see if you want to go for a thicker rim than usual, and trust me when I say these are much more high quality than the ones I was previously wearing. You can see if you want to go for a thinner, more wiry, maybe more educated frame than you had prior. One of these glasses might look as though they're too thin and they might feel cheap. Trust me when I tell you, I have the utmost confidence in the structural integrity of these frames right here. And maybe, just maybe, you've worn the same shape of glasses your entire life, so you want to switch up your shape a little bit and see how that would look. Let's just say, I don't mind the new shape. But here's the thing, while I crushed it in my selection, at least with the 3 pairs you've seen me put on thus far, I got a 4th pair where I definitely did not crush it in the selection. As you can see, these are a bit small. But imagine that I fell in love with this pair and I saw it online and I ordered it for myself, only for it to arrive at my doorstep and realize too small. That's the beauty of this try-at-home program. So you can try on 5 pairs of glasses that you love in the comfort of your own home, get everybody's reactions, snap a couple of pictures, see what's most popular, and then send all those pairs back to Warby Parker and order the pair that you love online. All with the confidence and the knowledge knowing that you got the best pair of glasses you possibly could have. So what are you guys waiting for? Go to warbyparker.com/nchammer and get your pair of glasses today. And then maybe, just maybe, you can look this good. So we have time travelers in Boruto. Well, we've actually had time travelers in Boruto for a while. Ever since Boruto's anime canon arc, the time slip arc, was released, people have theorized how time travel will play into Boruto's timeline later down the line. Because once you introduce time travel, it's kind of hard to ignore the fact that we can move through time at will. And while that may not technically be the case in Boruto because of how the time slip arc ends, there is technically an item in the Boruto anime canon arc that does grant people the ability to travel through time. And since Oroshiki is a manga canon character that is killed in the time slip arc, the time slip arc probably carries the most weight in terms of canonicity amongst the anime canon arcs, which, mind you, once again, aren't filler, but anime canon, which means within the confines of the anime universe, they are 100% canon events. Events that could just as easily be referenced at any point throughout the anime's history. But we haven't gotten to how Boruto was going to travel through time quite yet. Let's first cover why we're talking about this in the first place. In the most recent chapter of Two Blue Vortex, Boruto, in a conversation with Code, says, "You know nothing of the horrors of the Ten Tails." Now, Boruto's having this conversation with Code because Boruto wants Code to destroy all of his Ten Tails soldiers, as Boruto believes that they'll spell the undoing of Earth. Now, this one comment made a lot of people scratch their heads, because Boruto doesn't know anything about the horrors of the Ten Tails. The Ten Tails that was created by bringing all of the nine-tailed beasts together to rampage against the world and turn the entire world into a divine tree that Kaguya could eat the chakra fruit of, happened long before Boruto was born. So there's no way that Boruto could have any concept of how brutal and terrifying the Ten Tails is from that Ten Tails, and Boruto never got to interact with the juvenile Ten Tails hidden at the Kara hideout. It was Sasuke who found the juvenile Ten Tails, and even that juvenile Ten Tails was just locked away in a cage. In fact, it's all but pretty much confirmed that Boruto has never interacted with that juvenile Ten Tails, because in the very chapter that all of this came from, Boruto asks Code, "Where is the Ten Tails' real main body?" Implying that Boruto doesn't even know where the Ten Tails that was used to make all the Ten-Tailed soldiers' body even is. So people began to ask the very logical question: if Boruto hasn't interacted with the juvenile Ten Tails that was at the Kara hideout, and also obviously hasn't interacted with the Ten Tails that existed prior to his birth, how does Boruto have any concept of the horrors of the Ten Tails? And really, no matter how you look at it, there's 2 ways to answer this question. One, Sasuke could have just told him. As we know that Boruto and Sasuke spent at least a year together during the time skip, and considering that during this time skip, half of what they were doing was trying to avoid Code, who's very actively trying to catch Boruto because he's 100% Otsutsuki and trying to feed him to a Ten Tails to create a divine tree and eat the chakra fruit, which will wipe out the entirety of Earth. And therefore, at some point, Sasuke, who was very well versed in the horrors of the Ten Tails, considering the fact that he was a pivotal fighter in the 4th Great Shinobi World War and has been waging a one-man war against the Otsutsuki for longer than a decade, as well as also coming face to face with the juvenile Ten Tails at the Kara hideout, could have possibly sat Boruto down and been like, "Okay, here, I'm gonna explain to you why Code trying to turn you into a chakra fruit is so detrimental for the entire world." Like, sure, obviously Boruto could have like a concept of what a Ten Tails is and why they're so scary. Sasuke has seen it firsthand, and actually quite often. And on top of all of this, Sasuke heard about the history of the world from Hagoromo himself. So Sasuke can be like, "Hey, Ten Tails are these things that Otsutsuki bring to planets, and they feed a lower ranking one to that Otsutsuki to make a divine tree, eat a chakra fruit, and destroy the world. And the Earth has had an incredibly long and complicated relationship with Ten Tails. As Kage at one point melded with the Ten Tails, became it, Hagoromo, the literal god of our universe, had to separate her from it, seal the husk of it on the moon with his brother, and then eventually she broke out of the moon, and then me and your father had to seal her back into a new moon. And oh yeah, by the way, this Ten Tails we're talking about is so powerful that it quite literally terraformed the Earth. So we really don't want any more of those around, and we definitely don't want them turning into divine trees." And considering the fact that Boruto is Code's only way to achieve this dream because he can't go after Kawaki because he's in love with Ada, him being privy to all of this information would be very helpful. But the idea of Sasuke sitting Boruto down and rationally explaining all of this to him, considering the fact that his life hangs in the balance of whether or not Code is successful in this scheme, is boring. What if the real answer was time travel. Because the other second possible answer to Boruto understanding the horrors of the Ten Tails pays off on an almost decade-old theory. See, in 2014, we got the releases of chapters 686 and 687. And while the most important thing that happens in these two chapters is Obito's death, in Obito's death scene in the manga, but not in the anime, we see a shady black-clad figure way off in the distance watching Obito's death. And therefore, as a second possible answer to Boruto figuring out the horrors of the Ten Tails is that he time traveled back in time to watch the Fourth Great Shinobi World War and possibly train. See, this black spot in chapter 687 has been a talking point since it showed up. Those who believe that Shisui never actually died because he wouldn't die from falling into a waterfall believe that this was Shisui watching over the Fourth Great Shinobi World War, willing to step in whenever was necessary in order to use his incredible blind no jutsu to save the day. However, when Jigen was introduced and revealed to be thousands of years old, people began to speculate that this black speck was possibly Jigen, making sure that Kaguya lost in this battle as a revenge plot for what he did to her. And if at any point it appeared as though Kaguya was gonna win, Jigen was gonna step in and finish her off. However, neither of those have ever been theories that I've subscribed to, though the Jigen one does make a fair amount of sense. As he's familiar with Kaguya's abilities, he can also travel between dimensions, and he very much had a bone or an entire set of legs of bones to pick with Kaguya. However, the second that this discourse popped up, I immediately believed that it was Sakura. Because let's quickly go over the people that were canonically confirmed to be in Kaguya's dimension. It was Kaguya, Black Setsu, Obito, Kakashi, Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura. So Team 7, Obito, Kaguya, Black Setsu. And the reason that I thought, and still kind of think, that it was Sakura is because it's kind of confirmed to be Sakura. See, in chapter 686, Team 7 and Obito are battling against Kaguya and Black Setsu. However, Kaguya gets slightly overwhelmed by Naruto and Sasuke's combined effort, and thus decides to alter the gravity in the dimension they're currently residing in, which forces everybody, including herself, onto the ground. At this point, we see that Sakura is with Obito, and Naruto is with Sasuke, and Kakashi is alone. He's injured, he's being kind of useless, he's going through a dramatic little like, how can I help moment. However, with Naruto and Sasuke pinned to the ground by the extra gravity, Kaguya is aiming her Ash-all-killing bone at the both of them. And unfortunately for her, and fortunately for the rest of existence, she misses her first shot at the both of them. And it's at this point that Obito and Kakashi jump into action dedicated to saving Naruto and Sasuke, as they identify that Naruto and Sasuke are humanity's only chance at ever defeating Kaguya. And thus Kakashi jumps in front of Sasuke and Obito jumps in front of Naruto. But in order to get to Naruto and Sasuke, Obito and Kakashi have to leave their current locations. And it's seen in both the anime and the manga that Obito jumps down from a high place. And since Obito was with Sakura, we know that Obito and Sakura are above Naruto and Sasuke. Now, the direction in which Obito approaches from is kind of different in the anime and the manga. That is to say that we don't really see the direction in which Obito approaches from in the manga, but in the anime, he approaches from a line that's parallel with Naruto and Sasuke. That is to say, let's assume that I'm Naruto. Obito comes from that way, directly to my right. That's actually kind of important, because while Sakura canonically being above Naruto and Sasuke in this circumstance doesn't make the whole "the black speck is Boruto" theme look all that great, the black speck in the manga appears behind Obito and Naruto, but Obito, who's with Sakura, came from the right. Now, if you've seen the anime or if you read the manga, you'll know that Obito uses Kamui to save Kakashi's life, but he gets struck with an Ash-all-killing bone rod. And while Naruto is trying to make sure that Obito doesn't die using his newly found Ninja Jesus abilities, this is when we see the black speck over both of their shoulders. So it kind of works in the direction of arguing for Sakura, but also works in the direction of arguing against Sakura, because we know that Sakura is above them, but we also know that Sakura is to their right, not behind them. And considering the fact that the panel is showing a straight-on shot to Obito and Naruto, who haven't shifted, mind you, it means that technically Sakura is in the wrong position to be the black spot. But unfortunately for this theory, that changes rather quickly. See, because while Obito jumps down from the right and stops the Ash-all-killing bone from killing Naruto, after Obito has died, Kaguya switches dimensions to the root dimension so she can recover chakra more quickly. And upon switching to the root dimension, we switch to Sakura's POV. And unfortunately for this theory having any legs, Sakura's POV shows us not only way behind Naruto in the ashes of Obito, but also above, putting her in the exact correct position to be the black spot. However, very obviously, Kaguya had just switched dimensions. And while technically Ama no Minako works by pulling parts of a dimension to your current location, there's a possibility that through the switching of dimensions that Sakura's position was jumbled. But this evidence is what I've been using to argue the fact that this black spot is Sakura for the last decade or so. Well, I guess those anime episodes only came out, what, 6 years ago? So for the last 6 years. But I will admit my more rational answers aren't always the fun answers. And the answer of the black spot being a time-traveling Boruto watching the most important fight in the history of humanity is the fun answer. And here's the thing, while there is compelling evidence for it being Sakura, there's also somewhat compelling evidence for it being Boruto. Because if we get way too over-analytical with this moment, we'll see that the black speck is dressed all in black. Even in the colorized version of the manga, the black speck is all in black. And while in Kaguya's dimension, Sakura is wearing a blue jumpsuit, the black speck appears as though it's wearing a trench coat of sorts, or at the very least a dress or a skirt or something that comes out around the thigh level. And considering the fact that Boruto wears a black cloak that flares out at his thigh level, if you're overanalyzing a spot, that spot does look a lot like Boruto. Not to mention, the context of the scene where this black spot appears is very interesting, because in this scene, Black Zetsu is explaining how Obito is a traitor to everybody in his life, how he's a failure on both sides. That is, he wasn't able to bring Kaguya back to life, and he wasn't able to defeat Kaguya. Basically, every time that Obito tried to do something, he failed. But let me read you the exact lines that Black Zetsu says about Obito in this scene, which, mind you, really didn't have to include the black dot here. I don't think anybody would have minded if Sakura wasn't included in the background here. I can say the fact that this scene takes the entire top part of one page, the text bubbles seem to almost purposely accent the presence of somebody in the background. Now let's get into what Black Zetsu was saying about Obito. Hated by both ally and foe, no family or friends to mourn for him. He's all alone with no legacy. I don't know about you, but that does sound vaguely familiar, doesn't it? Hated by both ally and foe. That perfectly explains Boruto's current situation, as Ada granted Kawaki's wish of making Kawaki Naruto's son and convinced the entire world that Boruto killed Naruto and Hinata. However, here's the thing. You would assume that Boruto becoming a rogue ninja and killing two of the most important people in Konoha would make those who used to hate him now love him. That is to say that you would assume it would make his foes into allies. Boruto's foes still want him dead. Boruto's key foes in Boruto are Kawaki and Code, two people who even after Ada's brainwashing still want Boruto dead. Kawaki wants to erase all Otsutsuki on Earth, and Code wants to use Boruto to create a divine tree. But now not only do Boruto's foes still hate him, but his allies hate him because they believe that he killed Naruto and Hinata. The second line is no family or friends to mourn him. This line kind of applies to Boruto, because technically a large amount of Boruto's family is currently floating in the Daikokuten, and the brainwashing effect somewhat worked on Himawari. I believe that Himawari would still mourn him if he died, as we saw in chapter 1, that she doesn't actually believe that he was the one who killed her parents. But in premise as a wide-reaching phrase, Boruto doesn't have any family. Now, he does have friends, as Sarada and Sumire were unaffected by Ada's brainwashing, but the majority of Boruto's friends were turned against him, like Team 10 and Mitsuki. The third line is he's all alone. Considering the fact that Boruto showed up to Konoha and Two Blue Vortex all by himself, that is, son Sasuke, he is, in fact, and has for the last 2-ish years, been all alone. So this absolutely applies to Boruto, especially if he is the black speck in the background, because he's just alone in Kaguya's dimension watching this battle go on. And the last line is with no legacy, which also applies to Boruto because his entire life was erased from the minds of everybody he ever knew. So in the truest sense of the words, he has no legacy outside of the legacy of possibly killing Naruto and Hinata. So the context of the panel is actually very important. In actuality, the context of that panel applying to Boruto so well is really the only reason I believe in this theory at all. But enough about what this theory is. Let's get to the things that we actually like to talk about, the why. See, because we can sit here and draw connections between Boruto and Obito and be like, oh, that cloak kind of looks like him. But without answering the question of why would this theory be possible or why would this theory happen, it's not worth talking about. So why would Boruto go back in time? Why would he go to Kaguya's dimension? Why would he watch this legendary battle? Well, there's actually more reasons than one would originally anticipate. The first reason is that Boruto needs to avoid detection from Ada. See, here's the thing. Ada obviously apologized to Boruto in chapter 79 or 80, I believe, for fulfilling Kawaki's wish and essentially ruining his life, showing that Ada actually doesn't really hold a side in the battle between Kawaki and Boruto. However, she is in love with Kawaki, and she does wield the power of the Senrigan. And considering the fact that the Senrigan has the ability to see everything going on Earth and everything that has gone on Earth since she was born, and she's 16 pre-time skip, 19 post-time skip, this would imply that Boruto, as a rogue ninja, really had no ability whatsoever to hide from Ada, which has made a lot of people scratch their heads. Because a lot of people ask the incredibly logical question, how did Boruto and Sasuke spend 3 years on the run from somebody who can see everything on Earth? Now, this is kind of answered in chapter 1 of Two Blue Vortex. Ada offers Sarada to use her omnipotence to rewrite everybody's memories back to the original reality, implying that there's a better than zero chance that Ada just isn't working with Kawaki, and therefore is possibly refusing to use her Senrigan to find Boruto, as otherwise why would she be willing to rewrite everything she did for Kawaki? But the other possibility is that she can't find Boruto. See, because the only time to avoid detection from Ada's Senrigan is to go to a time where she didn't exist yet. And considering the fact that Naruto is 33 in Boruto and Boruto was 13 in Boruto, this means that Naruto had Boruto when he was about 20, which makes sense when you consider the fact that the last Naruto's only canon movie takes place about 2 to 3 years after the conclusion of the Fourth Great Shinobi World War, which means within like 6 months of Naruto and Hinata's first kiss, he knocked her up, because all of them were 16 in the Fourth Great Shinobi World War. It's an incredibly Mormon thing to do, but you know what? Go off, King. However, if Naruto is 33 in the beginning of Boruto, and there was 4 years between the conclusion of the Fourth Great Shinobi World War and the birth of Boruto, who's 13 in Boruto, that would mean there's 17 years between the conclusion of the Fourth Great Shinobi World War and Boruto, which would mean Ada, who's 16 in Boruto, wouldn't have been born until a couple of months after the conclusion of the Fourth Great Shinobi World War, which means that the Fourth Great Shinobi World War is pretty much the most recent thing that Boruto could go to outside of the effect of Ada's Senrigan. So he would have to go to at least the Fourth Great Shinobi World War to train in a timeline where Ada didn't exist yet, which would allow Boruto to avoid detection in case Ada was actually working with Kawaki. And even though Ada is working collaboratively with Sarada, I just can't really see her not also working with Kawaki, who she gave up everything to be with. And it's not like Kawaki could force her to do his bidding, because Daemon is with Ada and Daemon's stronger than Kawaki. But then again, it's not like Boruto is privy to the fact that Ada and Sarada are best buddies. So far as Boruto knows, Ada is obsessed with Kawaki and granted his wish using her omnipotence power. If I was him, I would assume they were working together and I would try to get out of the confines of her all-seeing eye. But why Kaguya's dimension? Why watch this battle? Well, that actually is an even more interesting answer. See, because the only people in Kaguya's dimension were Team 7, Obito, Kaguya, and Black Setsu. 3 of those people are already dead: Obito, Kaguya, Black Setsu, which leads only Team 7. Now, I personally subscribe to the idea that Sasuke is dead, or at the very least has been turned into one of the 10-tailed soldiers. Naruto is currently sealed in the Daikokuten, which leads only 2 remaining members of Team 7, neither of which we've seen yet in the first 2 chapters of Boruto, which is weird. See, one would assume that when Naruto disappeared, that Sakura and Kakashi were logical choices to replace him as Hokage. Kakashi had already done it, Sakura is now the strongest person in the village. Those are 2 very logical choices. And yet the person who was selected to be the 8th Hokage wasn't Sakura or Kakashi, but instead Shikamaru. Now, this is probably because Sasuke is a rogue ninja now, and Kakashi stated himself that if Sasuke ever went rogue again, he would go after him. And it wouldn't make a ton of sense to elect the wife of a rogue ninja to be the 8th Hokage. So in actuality, the real reason that we may not have seen Sakura or Kakashi yet in Two Blue Vortex is because they went after Sasuke. But this means that post Ada's brainwashing, nobody from the Kaguya's Dimension fight is currently existing within Konoha. Kaguya, Black Setsu, and Obito are dead. Sasuke might be dead. Naruto is in the Daikokuten, and Sakura and Kakashi are out looking for Sasuke, which means that if Boruto were to interfere with anybody in a past timeline, these would be the people he should interfere with, as these are all the people most heavily involved in what's going on revolving around Boruto right now. On top of this, let's say hypothetically Boruto doesn't want to interfere with time at all. Being inside of Kaguya's dimension would not only grant him access to watching one of the most high-level fights in human history, but also would grant him the lowest level of ability to interfere with past time. And there's actually more evidence for Boruto being a time traveler, like the fact that Code has been chasing after Boruto for 2 whole years and yet never found him. Code, who has an army at his disposal, is apparently stronger than Ishiki, has a karma marking, and has all of the resources of Kara, was never able to catch one boy operating probably by himself. Well, what if the real reason that Code wasn't able to find Boruto for 2+ years is because he didn't have the tools to find him? That is to say that there's a possibility that Boruto was the only one with the tools to travel through time. All right, that's a whole lot of answers to the question of why, but now let's get to the more logistical question of how. Because of course we can be like, oh, that looks like Boruto and here's why he would time travel, but how would he time travel? It's not an easy task. We've only ever seen time travel once in Boruto's universe, and that was anime canon. And that may not even be replicatable. Well, let's answer the question. How would Boruto end up in Kaguya's dimension in the first place? Well, if we were to take the anime canon arc seriously, we know that the Otsutsuki have an item known as Karasaki, and Karasaki is a time traveling turtle. In essence, Karasaki kind of works like a ninja tool. You tell Karasaki where you want to travel to in time, and then you supplement Karasaki with an appropriate amount of chakra to get you there. This item is used by the Otsutsuki to travel through time, and since they have so much chakra, they can travel to pretty much anywhere they want. Now, this item comes up during the time slip arc, when Konoha accidentally stumbles upon Karasaki, and Urashiki realizes, before Konoha realizes, that Karasaki has the ability to travel through time, because Urashiki is an Otsutsuki and he knows what Karasaki is, and therefore Urashiki realizes that if he uses Karasaki, he can jump Naruto as a child and get the Nine Tails chakra while it's still easy. And thus Urashiki tries to use Karasaki to travel back in time to get child Naruto's chakra. But Boruto and Sasuke end up jumping him while he's traveling back in time and throw the whole time thing out of loop. And therefore Naruto and Sasuke end up somewhere during the time skip as Naruto is with Jiraiya, and they have a couple of days to prepare for Urashiki coming in to battle them. And then in a couple of days, Urashiki shows up and Naruto, Jiraiya, Boruto, and Sasuke battle against Urashiki and kill him, at which point they take Karasaki and travel back to their timeline. However, the way that they were able to supplement Karasaki with enough chakra to get back to their timeline is that Karasaki was fed using Naruto's Nine Tails chakra. And therefore, when they get back to the modern day timeline, Karasaki's like, well, I actually have enough chakra to go somewhere else if you guys want. So Boruto and Sasuke tell Karasaki, well, go on a journey of self-exploration. Go find yourself out in the time cosmos. And therefore, Karasaki disappears and some time mumbo jumbo, effectively doing the thing that every filler arc or non-canon movie does in eliminating the incredibly powerful item that could be used to explain away everything that happens in the rest of the story. So if Karasaki is out on some journey of self-exploration, how is Boruto going to use Karasaki to travel back in time? That's a great question. And genuinely, the only answer is that Karasaki goes on a journey of self-exploration and eventually finds himself and decides to return to Boruto's timeline. At which point, Karasaki reveals himself to Boruto and Sasuke, who are the only people that Karasaki knows in this timeline or this dimension. As mind you, Karasaki is a tool used by the Otsutsuki that's been sealed for hundreds, if not thousands of years. And considering the fact that Boruto and Sasuke are together again, just like they were in the time slip arc, it would make sense that if Karasaki was going to reveal itself to anybody, it would be Boruto and Sasuke. But if that sounds way too anime canon to you, then there's other explanations. See, we know that Boruto from chapter 1 or episode 1 of Boruto has awoken his Jogan. And while Boruto has used his Jogan a couple of times in anime canon arcs, we have no ideas about what the extent of the abilities of the Jogan are. But considering the fact that the Jogan is called the True Eye and might be the base of every dojutsu in existence, and it's considered the pinnacle of power by the Otsutsuki, and they all seem very focused on getting their hands on one, it's a pretty distinct possibility that the Jogan at its fully realized potential grants you the ability to travel through time. We just don't know. But considering the fact that tons of dojutsu grant you access to space time ninjutsu, it's not crazy to assume that the Jogan also grants you access to space-time ninjutsu. And in fact, in an anime canon episode, Boruto uses the Jogan to open a space-time portal. And space-time ninjutsu have always been kind of incorrectly named. See, because they're not teleportation jutsu, they're not dimensional jutsu, they've been called space-time ninjutsu for as long as they've existed. Kamui, a space-time ninjutsu. Heavenly Hand Power, a space-time ninjutsu. Sasuke's ability to open portals, space-time ninjutsu. Kaguya's ability to jump between dimensions, space-time ninjutsu. But all of these ninjutsu simply grant people the ability to either jump between dimensions or change their location within their own dimension. But that's only leveraging the space bit of a space-time ninjutsu. No space-time ninjutsu has ever leveraged the time bit outside of Urashiki's Rinnegan, which is anime canon. But Urashiki's Rinnegan did grant him the ability to go back in time. But once again, if you're not gonna take Karasaki seriously, why would you take Urashiki's Rinnegan seriously? But there's a fairly distinct chance that the Jogan grants the user the ability to alter not only space, but time, and truly be the first space-time ninjutsu we've ever seen. Because here's the thing, space-time is super interesting. Space-time is like a blanket held tight at all four corners. When you drop supermassive items like planets or comets or moons on space-time, it drops a little hole in space-time. Not a hole, but a dent. And those dents, like a bowling ball in the center of a tightly held sheet, create gravity. And thus gravity is just the distortion of space-time. And the bigger and heavier the ball you're dropping on that sheet, the more distortion and the more gravity. But just as you can alter space in space-time, you can also alter time, as supermassive objects like black holes also alter time. And this is where theories like special relativity come into play, that state next to objects of great gravity, time itself is slowed. The best way to explain this is Interstellar, where they get trapped on that water planet next to a black hole, and because they spent so much time there, like 70 years pass on Earth. Now that's how we figured out to move forward in time. Let's say you were diagnosed with an incurable disease. If we somehow had technology that allowed us to travel to the nearest black hole, which we probably will never have, we could put you on that ship and fly you out to that black hole and have you fly around that black hole for a week. And then you could return to Earth 250 years into the future and be cured for whatever incurable disease you have. Assuming, you know, it was still around. Earth, that is. However, traveling back in time is a lot harder, because conceptually we have an idea how to see backwards in time, and that is colloquially referred to as the slice of bread theory, that states if you could see a planet that was 6 million light years away, you would actually be seeing 6 million years into its past. Say I take my cell phone and I turn my flash on out my window. That light will travel forever, and eventually it'll reach a destination. Let's say that light takes 6 million years to reach a destination. Once somebody is actually able to register seeing that, I will have been gone for 5,999,950 years? I probably didn't add enough numbers in there, but that's fine. So if we were able to see a planet that was 6 million light years away, we would be seeing 6 million years into its past. Though in actuality, that planet that we're seeing would be experiencing the same year as us. All of this has to do with space-time and how it pertains to light and gravity. And thus, the fact that all dimensional travel ninjutsu are referred to as space-time ninjutsu makes me believe that somebody's gonna figure out the time bit eventually. And considering the fact that Kishimoto wants to incorporate more and more sci-fi into his stories, I could see very easily time travel being involved. And with this ability to time travel, Boruto could have observed one of the most powerful and important battles in human history. But more importantly than that, Boruto would begin to understand the scope and the power of the Ten Tails, and why it's pivotal that he become powerful enough to make sure that the Fourth Great Shinobi World War never happens again. But Boruto could go even one step further than that. I mean, we now know that Boruto is so powerful, he believes that he can very easily defeat Ko. And it's hard to believe that he would have achieved that level of power without some serious training. So my current hypothesis is that Boruto actually went back in time to train. And I currently believe that if Boruto is actually a time traveler, that he didn't only go back in time to train, but to battle against the Ten Tails. See, as we all know, the Ten Tails was stated to have terraformed the Earth, an entity of pure nature chakra, a being so strong that it struck fear into everybody who saw it. So my belief is that Boruto went back in time to battle against the Ten Tails in its pure form, while it was terraforming the Earth, as battling against the Ten Tails, which has no consciousness and no memory, wouldn't affect the current timeline, so long as he didn't kill that Ten Tails, which would later be broken into the Nine-Tailed Beasts. Because pretty much anything else that Boruto would have done training-wise or battle-wise would have massive repercussions towards the future plot lines. However, I do have an itching feeling in the back of my head that the retcons between Kaguya's explanation of how the Ten Tails and the God Tree works and our current explanations in Boruto have something to do with his time-traveling ability. Because Kishimoto recently wrote an entire one-shot manga about Minato with the explicit purpose of making sure that everybody knows that Kushina being inside of the 8 trigram seal on Naruto was not a plot hole. So Kishimoto somehow working in an explanation based off Boruto's time traveler escapades as to why Kaguya had a different explanation for how God trees are made than every other Otsutsuki in history. Something about it. It makes sense. It scratches my brain correctly, but I just haven't put the pieces of string together. But if I think that Boruto is gonna be there battling against the Ten Tails, that would put him in the era of time when Kaguya supposedly came to Earth chasing after God Tree seeds. There's something in there, and I will find it. But for the moment, this is all I have. So what do you guys believe? Do you believe that that black speck is Boruto as a time traveler, or just Sakura off in the distance? Tell me in the comments below. And while you guys are down there, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. One of these days, man, I'm gonna sit down with a big old board and some red string, and we're gonna crack some codes.